Good morning and welcome to yet another unboxing. This is a super special unboxing for me as it has taken literally months for me to get what I got today. And my road to getting it was a long and arduous one, and it's a big box. That's what he said. So without further ado, I'm going to start opening it while I tell you the story. And this is going to be not only an unboxing, it's going to be borderline the more that you know episode. Okay, you can see that the box is really kind of tore up and beat down. And I'm going to tell you why. I used a service called Reship, and what that is when you can't order something to be delivered inside the country, you go to another country, have it shipped to your reshipped address, and then they in turn ship it to you. So that's what happened with this. These sneakers are sold out in the United States in my size everywhere I've looked. So what I wound up doing was going to a Canadian website that sold these sneakers, and voila, they actually had them in my size in stock. And not only that, with the conversion rate of the US dollar to the Canadian dollar, these were actually a third of the cost. So these are skater sneakers. And it appears that people in Canada in size 12 aren't as happy to have these skater sneakers as I was. The reason I wanted these is because they're Jean-Michel Basquiat DC skater sneakers. So in saying that they were a third of the cost, me being extra, I had to buy 3. And when I bought 3, they said, oh, there's 1 box left. So I bought the 4th one too. So now, I have the only remaining 4 pairs of these sneakers in this size in the United States. This is a momentous thing. Or it's stupid, depending on how you look at it. Let's see. I'll just open one, show you what they look like. Well, what comes with that is this is not a normal unboxing. This is going to go into a documentary status. For those of you who have never heard of Jean-Michel Basquiat, let me start at the beginning. He ran away at 15, and he lived in the streets of Soho, New York. One of the first things that he did, found a place to crash. I'm going to show you the sneaker first while I get into all this. I don't know if anybody wants to hear it, but these are called the King Pleasure. And King Pleasure is one of his, I'll take them both out. That's what she said. King Pleasure is one of his titles of his artworks. And this is the King Pleasure right here. If you can see that, I'll hold it up so you can see it. See, it's very unrefined. But to me, it was an unrefined style. It was very raw. It was a lot of energy to it because he was a prolific painter. One year they said he documented to do over 250 paintings in 1 year. And he is one of the few artists who has 0 paintings available today. Everything that he ever did has been purchased. And in fact, he owns the record, Sotheby's record, world record of selling a piece of art. And it was sold to a undisclosed buyer in China for this amount. So, what I plan to do with them is, I don't know, like most artists, when you like somebody, you want to do a collabo with them. And this is going to be my way of doing a collabo since I've never actually got to meet him or anything. Again, he was born in 1960 and he died in 1988, right? He died a year after his idol, Andy Warhol, who was a pop artist. You might have seen some of his stuff. He did the famous Marilyn Monroe painting where it's for, and you ever see the Barack Obama Hope color? It was like a watercolor. That's based on a Warhol. He did the Campbell soup cans. He's very famous for that kind of pop art, mixing things that were popular in the world into his art. At the time, Basquiat was a huge fan of his. Okay? This is what they look like. All right. Nothing special about them. only that they are camo and they have his name on them, and they're dedicated to him. And my first choice was to get a pair of Basquiat that Coach made, and they were literally sold out too. I had come late to the party on that, but I would find them online for maybe like $400, $500, and I would still have bought them because I wanted them so bad. Not that I would probably wear them a lot, but I just wanted them because this dude I identify with so much, being young, black, artistic. I never thought of myself as an artist, in fact, until a friend of mine, Andre Mack. What's up, Mac? Andre Mack, and I'm going to say this about a lot of my friends. If you look at my Facebook page, I tend to gravitate towards people that are creative, that are artistic in some way, because art is transferable. And what I mean by that is that if you are artistic in any way, you are artistic in every way. And I say this to say this. Andre Mack, guy known since elementary school. In fact, I just sent him a shirt from our elementary school, Pinel Elementary. He was extremely good at art when we were young. I don't know if he even remember this. If he's watching, Andre, here's a story for you. I think I may have even told him to it before. But he used to draw this comic. He used to draw comics. I'd take white paper, fold it in half, and draw on each pages and make a comic. One comic that I remember that he brought to school was Bagman. And when I tell you this comic was so ahead of its time and so funny and so meticulously drawn, I was blown away by it, even as a child, that I remember it to this day, and I'm 55 years old. So we're talking about a span of like 45 years. In any case, Andre Mack is an artist. He works for NASA now. But he also is a famous DJ down in Florida, which proves my example. If you're an artistic person, it's going to come through in any kind of way. He may work for NASA to earn money, but he DJs, which is an artistic ability, on the weekends, and he's so good at that he made a name for himself at that. I don't know if he still draws, but if he does, I'm sure it'll still be really quality, good stuff. But at the time, when I was young, I was heavily into comics. Much like I am now, I don't draw the characters as much or at all. But when I was young, I used to take like these 5x7 cards, and there would be lines on the back and then blank on the front, and I would draw the character, and on the back I would do their power levels and their biography on how they came, their origin stories, how they came to be. Okay, also in saying that, I have another friend, Dr. Gina. Hey, Dr. Gina. Dr. Gina is, to me, I call her the unicorn. She knows that. Dr. Gina is a surgeon. Dr. Gina started off as a Philadelphia police officer, and while she was a police officer, she paid her way through school and became a surgeon. She makes these sneakers for her sorority, and she bedazzled them. And she's so good at it that I found customers for her. Like she had done some sneakers for a friend of mine, Wendy. Hey, Wendy, whose daughter was going to a sorority. I think it's the Deltas. And although Dr. Gina is an AKA, Ski-Wee or whatever they do, I don't know. But she still did the sneakers for Wendy's daughter, and she bedazzled a pair of Pro-Keds or Chucks or whatever they were. She does this meticulous, detailed work. And it's so funny that you would think someone who makes, I don't know, hours a year, I don't mean to put you out there like that, Gina, but she would still find time to do this meticulous little detail work. But that's what an artist is. You all know Touré. Touré had said something. He's a world-class comedian, but he sees himself as a chef. Now, he's probably been on Def Comedy Jam, but I know he would have loved to have been on like Top Chef or something like that, because he's a cook. So artistic ability is transferable. I have a friend, Ed. Ed works for SEPTA now. He's been doing it, I don't know, over 20 years. He's a painter. Ed's a painter. So many people, I don't even know. I don't want to forget anybody. Um, I, I have people that cook. They do cards. They write. Cash Goins. Cash is a writer. He's an actor. You've seen him in some stuff. He was in several movies. It escapes me right now because I'm getting off the point. Just wanted to talk about how this dude inspired me, and also he's an inspiration for Jay-Z. If you ever heard Jay-Z's song Picasso Baby, he has a line in there that goes,
It ain't hard to tell. I'm the new Jean-Michel. Surrounded by Warhols, my whole team ball.
and he's talking about Jean-Michel Basquiat. And in fact, I just saw this picture floating around Facebook where, I don't know, people thought Jay-Z had been time traveling because he had on I think it was like in the early 90s or the 80s or whatever, he had on a shirt with Basquiat's picture on it, and Basquiat had the dreads. And people were like, how did Jay-Z know he was going to be this and da-da-da? Well, he didn't know. That wasn't him on his shirt. That was Jean-Michel Basquiat. And he later, obviously, he always had identified with him, so much so to the point where he started to emulate him physically by growing out his hair and things like that. Now, I've never been a Jay-Z fan per se with the early work, but the later work that the early fans didn't like, I really loved. Like when he got away from all the, I got this, I got that, the jewelry, the money, the hustler stuff, and he evolved into this mature, kind of grown-up dude. He evolved, he said. I love that work. And for the video Picasso Baby, Jay-Z actually held an exhibition, and he himself was the work of art. And I had identified with this because I wrote a character that said that he was a living, breathing work of art when he played basketball. This video, Picasso Baby, if you ever watch it, Jay-Z invites all these people, and they come to this exhibition, and I don't think that they know what they're going to see, and then he steps out, and he starts doing Picasso Baby a cappella. And then he allows them to interact. And the whole thing is just so avant-garde and so just artistic. I was like, that's an artist right there. That dude right there. He said he was the work of art. And then he allowed them to interact with the art because he was a living, breathing work of art. Oh, well, let me tell you some more stuff about Jean-Michel Basquiat. He was homeless for a long period of time, and he would crash at friends' spot. He would go to these clubs, and he would meet and interact with all these different kind of people that were trying to come up in the art game. One of them he met was Keith Haring, who was also another idol of mine. I have three artistic idols, the first being Leonardo da Vinci, and then we have Basquiat and Keith Haring. I like a lot of other people, but that it was a conglomeration of artistic people that had assembled in this one area. And like I said, and they were bound to interact. So when if you watch documentaries of things, or you watch, like Basquiat used to date Madonna when she was a coat check girl. And they had a brief thing. His idol was Andy Warhol. And they wound up being friends in that Jean-Michel and his girlfriend at the time used to do these postcards. They would do his little artwork on postcards and then get them Xerox. It was a big thing at the time. And he would go sell them to people at the Soho restaurants. And then one time he saw Andy Warhol, and he approached him, sold him a card for $5, changed his life. Within the time that Jean-Michel sold his first piece of art, he was 21 years old. And from the time he sold his first piece until he died was a span of 7 years. It's not a lot of time. But he is known from those 7 years to be one of the most influential artists of the 20th century, bar none. His first inspiration for art came when he got hit by a car when he was little, and his mom, while he was in the hospital, bought him a book called Gray's Anatomy. That Gray's Anatomy inspired him because it showed and you can see the reflection of Gray's Anatomy in his work. He does a lot of body parts, stripped down skeletons, but mainly skulls. The crown is very prevalent in his artwork, in that whole King of New York was always something on the minds of artists in New York. Everybody wanted to be the best at the thing that they did. So you would literally crown yourself king of something. So he incorporated a crown into his work quite often. And I'm going to do something with these sneakers, and I'm going to incorporate the crown, and I'm also going to incorporate his face. Another thing that I identify with John Michel is that he first started painting clothing, and he was known to rebrand himself. Like when he first made a name for himself on the scene, he was a tag graffiti artist. He would write poetry and little social commentary in Soho on the walls. And he did this because he wanted other artists to recognize him and see what he was doing. But it was always anonymous. No one ever knew who it was, and that was the big speculation of it. And that was on purpose because he wanted to build this kind of mystique around Somo or Samo, however you want to pronounce it. It was Samo. But when I heard that he used to draw on clothing, I did the same thing. When I started Ball So Hard by painting the logo of a basketball on a T-shirt. Somebody saw that and said, "Yo, I would buy that," and that a spark went off. I talked to my barber Al. What's up, Izzy? And he made some calls, and that put me on the path to starting my own business of using what I would consider my artistic ability to earn money. And the first thing I did was paint a shirt. I mean, literally hand painted a shirt. I'm not classically trained in anything, but it is just an inherent ability that I have. And I say that when you find that you have an ability, just exploit it. Just pursue it and see where it leads you. I mean, it doesn't cost you any time. I tell that to all young people. Like whatever it is, go ahead and pursue it. Because creativity will not be shut down. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. It will keep calling to you because it is inherently what you are. John Michel also reminds me of one of my favorite designers, Christian Louboutin. And I like Christian Louboutin too, which this box is reminiscent of. Christian Louboutin has a pair of sneakers, which I'll probably show you here. And there were these limited edition red bottoms, and I have them. But I like all this mishmash kind of like art. John Michel was also a prolific writer. That's how he first came into contact with Fat Five Freddy. And if you don't know who Fat Five Freddy is, shoot yourself. Fat Five Freddy is one of the pioneers of the hip hop movement. He brought rap to MTV. He was the first host of Yo MTV Raps. And if you don't know who he is, because it's easy to not know why this dude is famous, but Fat Five Freddy was a part of a group of graffiti artists that he organized called the Fabulous Five, and he's Fabulous Five Freddy. But within that group, there was a extremely influential graffiti artist, not Spanish, Lee Quiones. Now, if you don't know who Lee Quiones is I will inform you on that too, because this is a rabbit hole that you're going down. Lee Quiones was the main graffiti artist in the movie Wild Style. He is supposed to be the first person that had the idea to take a train mural and put it on a wall. He did it on a handball court in a schoolyard, elementary schoolyard, and literally people came from miles around to take pictures of this thing. So Lee Quiones and Fat Five Freddy were linked. So those two linked up, and they met Jean-Michel Basquiat when they were at a party that was featuring their art. And this is when they were bringing street art to the mainstream. Everybody was invited except John Michel. He wasn't famous or anything, but he showed up anyway because he was apt to do that. He was apt to pop up at places. So John Michel shows up, and on camera, someone's doing on-camera interviews. He hits up a tag on the wall, and he reveals to the world that he is Samo. And from then on, him and Fat Five Freddy, Lee Quiones, they linked up. Fat Five Freddy also introduced Jean-Michel Basquiat to Blondie, who at the time was a punk rock artist, but she was so heavily influenced by the block parties in New York. She was a real fan of the hip hop movement, and in fact, she took Nile Rodgers and showed him that the DJs in New York street scene was using his song Good Times and scratching up. He had no idea. Blondie, who can be considered the queen of the hip hop movement, brought hip hop to the mainstream when she made a song called Rapture. And this is a little bit of information, a little bit of trivial information. Um, Blondie made a rap song. It gave birth to a whole movement and brought rap to the mainstream, so much so that people like Wu-Tang said that the first time they ever heard someone rapping on the radio, it was Blondie. And even KRS One is Step Into a World, where he uses the sample of, Blondie, Rapture. But in Rapture, little known fact, John Michel Basquiat is actually in the video with Fab Five Freddy and Lee Quinones. It was originally supposed to be Grandmaster Flash, but John Michel was always around. So when she says, Flash is fast, Flash is cool, Francois said, Pa, Flash ain't no do, or ain't no fool, whatever the line is, she's talking to Jean Michel Basquiat in the video. And then when she comes out and the guy's doing graffiti, that's Lee Quinones, and then Fab Five Freddy, you know who Fab Five Freddy is. Here are the sneakers and my finished product.